Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm gonna say something that Browns fans probably aren't going to like, and honestly, I don't give a damn if it makes Cleveland uncomfortable. Shedeur Sanders needs to get the hell out of Cleveland. Because at this point, what exactly is the Cleveland Browns' plan? We're now hearing that Deshaun Watson is going to be the starting quarterback, and this apparently isn't some week-to-week competition where Shedeur Sanders gets a legitimate opportunity to take the job. Cleveland has made its decision. Watson gets the job. And if that's really the case, then Cleveland should do the right thing and stop wasting Shedeur's time. Trade the damn kid. Set him free. Send him somewhere that actually wants him. Because I'm looking at this situation and thinking, what the hell are the Browns doing? Shedeur Sanders is sitting there as one of the most talked about young quarterbacks in football, and Cleveland appears perfectly comfortable putting him behind a quarterback who has played only a limited number of games for the franchise while dealing with major injuries and enormous expectations. I understand the business side. I understand the contract. I understand why Cleveland wants to see whether Deshaun Watson can somehow resurrect the version of himself that dominated in Houston. But that doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders should have to sit around and watch this experiment play out. And if Cleveland isn't going to give him a legitimate shot, then somebody needs to call Andrew Berry and say, hey, we'll take him. Maybe it costs a 6th-round pick. Maybe it costs a 7th-round pick. Hell, maybe Cleveland doesn't get much of anything. I don't care. Just get Shedeur Sanders somewhere he can actually compete. And I'll tell you where I would love to see him. Atlanta. Can you imagine Shedeur Sanders in Atlanta, Georgia? Can you imagine that city going absolutely insane for this kid wearing a Falcons jersey? Because there is something about Shedeur that goes beyond football. The personality, the confidence, the swagger, the celebrity, the connection with Deion Sanders, and most importantly, the belief that this kid actually belongs on a football field. Shedeur Sanders became a massive name at Colorado, and his jersey became enormously popular. That tells you something about the attention surrounding him. Now imagine taking that attention and putting it into Atlanta. The Atlanta Falcons already have talent. They have weapons. They have a fan base desperate for something exciting. And suddenly you bring in Shedeur Sanders, you could have a damn explosion. Now, I know people are going to say, but Atlanta invested heavily in Michael Penix Jr. I know they spent a high pick on Penix, and I understand the argument, but football isn't supposed to be a charity where you keep playing somebody forever simply because you drafted him. You play the guy who gives you the best chance to win. And if Shedeur Sanders is sitting there available for virtually nothing, why the hell wouldn't you at least investigate it? The same goes for Tagovailoa. If you believe Shedeur can win you more football games than the quarterback options you're currently considering, then you owe it to yourself to find out. That's what makes this situation so frustrating, because I don't think Shedeur Sanders has been given a clean opportunity. At Colorado, the kid took punishment, game after game. He got hit, he got knocked around, he got pressured, he got his ass kicked behind an offensive line that often couldn't protect him, and he kept getting back up. That matters. People can talk about his father, they can talk about his confidence, they can talk about his personality, they can talk about whether he's arrogant. Fine, I don't care. Quarterback is a brutal position. You can be the nicest person in the world and still get your ass handed to you every Sunday if you can't play. So the question is simple. Can Shedeur Sanders play? I believe he can. And that's why I was never interested in the lazy narrative that this kid was simply some overhyped celebrity quarterback. He made big throws. He showed accuracy. He showed toughness. He showed confidence under pressure. He showed the ability to operate late in games. And when he was at Jackson State, the same qualities were visible. This wasn't something that suddenly appeared at Colorado. It was part of his game. And yes, Deion Sanders obviously played a massive role in his development. Of course he did. That's his father. But having a famous father doesn't automatically make you a quarterback. At some point, you have to perform. And Shedeur performed enough to get himself drafted by the Cleveland Browns. That's the important part. The Browns chose him. And now I'm asking, why the hell did they choose him if they weren't prepared to give him a legitimate opportunity? That's where this whole thing starts looking ridiculous, because Cleveland has already invested heavily in Deshaun Watson. Jimmy Haslam gave Watson a 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed contract. That decision has been one of the biggest albatrosses in recent NFL history. Then came the injuries, then came the suspensions, then came the criticism, then came the terrible quarterback play, then came the boos. And now Cleveland is desperately hoping that the old Deshaun Watson is still somewhere inside that body. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. That's football. But the Browns cannot pretend the last several years didn't happen. Watson has played only a limited number of games for Cleveland, and injuries have completely disrupted his career. He's dealt with the Achilles issue, including the reattachment surgery, and the shoulder problems. So now the Browns are essentially betting on a comeback. Fine, but that doesn't mean Shedeur Sanders has to be sacrificed. It doesn't. And this is where Todd Monken becomes part of the conversation. Monken has a long football resume. He's coached at multiple stops, including Grand Valley State, Southern Miss, Georgia, and the Baltimore Ravens. He was part of Georgia's championship-winning teams. He worked with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Nobody is saying Monken is some idiot who doesn't understand football. But here's my question. Does he actually believe Shedeur can play? Because if he doesn't, then stop pretending this is some beautiful quarterback competition. And I remember the Cleveland video where Shedeur met Monken. There was that moment where Monken talked about how Baltimore had wanted Shedeur. Maybe that's true. Ozzie Newsome reportedly explored whether Baltimore could get Shedeur before Cleveland ultimately selected him.
But let's be honest. There's a gigantic difference between saying we like the player and saying we were desperate to build our franchise around this player. Those are two completely different things. And Shedeur knew the situation too. Why would he want to sit behind Lamar Jackson in Baltimore? If Lamar stays healthy, you're potentially talking about years of waiting for an opportunity. So Cleveland became the landing spot. And now Cleveland is basically saying, thanks for coming. We're going back to Deshaun. That's why I keep saying, get the hell out of Cleveland. This isn't about hating Cleveland. This isn't about pretending Deshaun Watson can't play football. It's about opportunity. If Cleveland believes Watson gives them the best chance to win, then play Watson. But if that's the decision, then trade Shedeur. Don't bury him. Don't waste another year. Don't let his development disappear behind a veteran quarterback comeback project. Find him a team that wants him. And I keep coming back to Atlanta, because look at the division. The NFC South is not some terrifying, unbeatable monster. You've got Baker Mayfield, you've got Bryce Young, you've got the New Orleans Saints, you've got Kellen Moore entering the picture in New Orleans. Nobody's invincible. Nobody has built some unstoppable football empire. So if Atlanta suddenly added a quarterback with Shedeur Sanders' confidence and playmaking ability, why couldn't they compete? And I'm not saying Shedeur automatically becomes a Pro Bowler. I'm not saying he's guaranteed to become the next Tom Brady. I'm not even saying he'll definitely be better than Michael Penix Jr. or Tua Tagovailoa. I'm saying he deserves the chance to find out. That's the difference. And let's talk about the personality issue. This is where I think people have completely lost their minds. Shedeur Sanders is confident. Okay, so what? Quarterbacks are supposed to believe they're good. You think Tom Brady walked into New England thinking, gee, I hope I can make the roster? No, he believed he belonged. The great quarterbacks have an edge. They have an ego. They believe they can make the throw when everybody else thinks they can't. Shedeur has that. Maybe sometimes he goes too far. Maybe sometimes the swagger rubs people the wrong way. Fine. But I'd rather have a quarterback who believes he can win than one who's terrified of making a mistake. And that's what I see when I watch Shedeur. The poise, the confidence, the accuracy, the toughness, the ability to make the big throw. Those are the things I care about. And if you put him behind Cleveland's rebuilt offensive line, give him better weapons, give him Teiroa McMillan if we're talking about the type of weaponry available around the league, and give him receivers such as Denzel Boston, suddenly you're talking about a very different situation. Give him a legitimate tight end. Give him David Njoku if Cleveland keeps him. Give him competent protection. Give him a running game. Then let's see what the kid can actually do. Because judging him while he's surrounded by backups and limited opportunities is bullshit. And that's why Cleveland fans have every right to be frustrated too. They don't want another quarterback controversy. They want somebody to finally fix this damn franchise. But the answer can't always be throwing another bandage over the problem. Cleveland needs to figure out what it actually believes. If the organization believes Watson is the guy, then commit. If they believe Shedeur is the future, then give him a chance. But keeping Shedeur around while treating him like an afterthought makes no sense. And if the Browns truly don't believe in him, trade him.
Call Atlanta. Call anybody. Call the teams that need quarterback help. Maybe Atlanta's front office looks at Shedeur and says, we can work with this. That could be the opportunity that changes everything. Because sometimes quarterbacks don't need a perfect situation. They just need someone to believe in them. And that's what I want for Shedeur Sanders. I want a team that looks at him and says, we drafted you because we actually believe you can play. Not, we drafted you because you were available. Not, we needed a distraction. Not, we'll see what happens. No, give the kid a real opportunity. Because right now, Cleveland looks like the worst possible place for Shedeur Sanders. And that's why I keep saying the same thing. Get the hell out of Cleveland. Get away from the quarterback drama. Get away from the Deshaun Watson contract. Get away from the constant circus. Go somewhere that actually wants you. Go somewhere where the coaching staff believes in you. Go somewhere where the front office isn't emotionally attached to proving a $230 million decision was worth it. Because that's the danger here. Jimmy Haslam has every reason to want Deshaun Watson to succeed. He invested an enormous amount of money. Nobody wants to admit they screwed up, but football doesn't care about your feelings. The salary doesn't complete passes. The contract doesn't read defenses. The owner doesn't throw touchdowns. The quarterback does. So if Watson can play, great, let him prove it. But don't destroy Shedeur Sanders' opportunity just because Cleveland wants to justify the past. That's my problem. And if Cleveland is truly willing to move him for a 6th-round pick or 7th-round pick, then somebody needs to make the damn call. Because somewhere underneath all this noise, there could be a quarterback waiting for an opportunity. A quarterback who has already proven he can handle pressure. A quarterback who has already played in enormous environments. A quarterback who has already dealt with criticism. A quarterback who has already been knocked down and gotten back up. That's Shedeur Sanders. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Shedeur never becomes the star I think he can become. That's football. But I'd rather be wrong after giving the kid a real opportunity than be right while watching Cleveland bury his career on the bench. That's what would piss me off. Because talent needs opportunity. And right now, Shedeur Sanders needs somebody to believe. So, Atlanta, if you're listening, make the call. Andrew Berry, if Cleveland isn't going to use him, pick up the damn phone. Jimmy Haslam, if you truly believe Deshaun Watson is your guy, then clear the runway. Todd Monken, if you genuinely believe Shedeur can play, then prove it. And Shedeur Sanders, if Cleveland doesn't want you, don't beg them. Get the hell out. Go somewhere else. Go win. Go prove them wrong. Because sometimes the best thing that can happen to a young quarterback is getting away from the franchise that never truly believed in him. And Cleveland, you don't get to complain later if Shedeur Sanders becomes the quarterback you refuse to develop. You made the choice. Now live with it. That's my opinion, but I want to hear yours. Do you think the Cleveland Browns should trade Shedeur Sanders? Should the Atlanta Falcons make a move for him? Could Shedeur Sanders actually win more games than Michael Penix Jr. or Tua Tagovailoa if given the opportunity? And do you believe Deshaun Watson deserves to be the unquestioned starter for the season? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because if Shedeur Sanders gets traded and suddenly starts lighting up the NFL somewhere else, we're gonna remember this moment. And Cleveland Browns fans might be sitting there asking the question they should have asked from the beginning. What the hell did we just let walk out the door?